As we join our story, the crew of the Arcada is returning home to Xenon after a successful mission developing the star generator. Exhilarated by their accomplishments, they are oblivious to the fact that a sinister craft approaches rapidly from behind. You're startled by the sound of an alarm. Breaking through it, the intercom crackles with the frightened voice of a technician shouting that the Arcada has been boarded by unknown intruders. The transmission ends abruptly in a soundstorm of white noise, soon overtaken by the cold din of silence.
Destruct sequence is engaged. 15 minutes till detonation.
That's not a good sign. Hello and welcome to Let's Play Space Quest 1, the Sarien Encounter. This is the 1990 remake of this game with 256 color VGA graphics and with MT32 MIDI sound. I've got an actual MT32 here on my desk, and that's why this is the third attempt to record this, because trying to get the synthesizer and the microphone and the digital audio track to cooperate with OBS has been a bit of a challenge, and I think I've got it right this time. If not, we're going with this recording anyway. I'm not doing this another time. Alright, so we are Roger Wilco, janitor sub-extraordinaire, and we move him around with this walk icon. We look at things with the eye icon, the lights flashing. Let's see. That seems to ring a distant bell. Oh yeah, now you remember. It means that all living things now aboard the ship could die due to some disastrous situation that currently exists. Whatever the case, some personal hide preservation is in order. We can interact with objects with the hand cursor, open doors, pick up stuff, tinker with controls. Since the sign is recessed into the wall, you can do nothing with it. A nice distinct handprint now remains on the alert sign. We can talk to things or people. We can smell things. You take a whiff and notice a smell common to electronics, which haven't had power applied to them in quite a while. And we can taste things. Boy, that was a bad idea. Your tongue now bears the residue left behind by adventurers who, like yourself, have shown a need to press various and sundry organs against the sign. To my knowledge, Space Quest is the only Sierra game with a nose icon for smelling things, and a taste icon for tasting things. Leisure Suit Larry may have had a tongue icon for other purposes, but we'll not talk about Leisure Suit Larry unless we decide to actually play those games. I'm not holding my breath. This is a Sierra game, so that means that we need to save our game frequently and compulsively, and I'm going to make sure my speed is cranked all the way up, and we're going to go this direction. This is where the sophisticated electronics for the complete data archive system are housed. This is a Model DX cartridge retrieval unit. Its function is to retrieve and return cartridges from and to the storage unit. It is currently empty. This is the operation console of the data archive unit. There's a CRT and a chair. Well, we don't know which cartridges might be interesting or which cartridges they have, so we'll come back to this and maybe we'll have more information later. You hear footsteps. I'm sure we will again. It's all that remains of Jerry, one of the few techno dudes aboard who sometimes tolerated your company. Your low clearance excluded you from visiting him during the performance of his duties in the elegant lower-level airlock of the Arcada. So there's an airlock. He has access to it, and it's on the lower level. So let's go head downstairs gradually as we learn things. You search Jerry's body and find a keycard. Okay, this pouch here is our inventory. We have the key card we just got from Jerry, and we have 3 buckazoids, which are the local currency here. Another red alert sign. In case you're trying to play this as a text adventure, the sign says red alert and it's flashing. You hear footsteps. Oh, where did I save last? The aliens observe their handiwork briefly before looking for others to process in similar fashion. As you lie on the floor in a smoldering carbo-gelatinous heap, you just can't help but wonder why you bothered getting up this morning. And we last saved at the very start of the game. That was silly. This is why we save compulsively. And you'll sometimes see me save the game and then save the game again for having just saved the game. It's a compulsion with Sierra players after a while. And I'm using the same save game here for no good reason. And in a Sierra game, especially when you don't know, you need to multi-layer your save. We'll talk about that here after we deal with this scientist who's wandering into this lab. The door opens. A man you recognize as one of the head lab scientists stumbles into the room. He appears to be in serious need of some Abdo-Seal abdomen filler. After only a few steps, he hits the floor with a disconcerting thud. One of the few times in this game we get to use the talk icon. His lips move. The star generator is in danger. The Arcada is under attack. You'd better get off the scow if you value your life, Wilco. Just before his systems cease all function short of decay, he looks over toward the shelves full of cartridges and utters magnetic fields. With one last gasp, his lifeless form slumps to the floor. Okay. So I'm thinking that's probably a cartridge he needs, so let's have a seat and see if we can get this thing to work. And this is the copy protection for the game, because it requires you to enter cartridge titles in this funny alien writing. And the solution to that is stored in the owner's manual for the game. And it says that magnetic fields is that button, then this button, and then the exclamation points again, and then this button again. Cartridge found, now retrieving. Alright, and we save our game. I'm going to use a different slot here, because when you save your game... Okay, so obviously the ship's going to explode in 12.5 minutes. So if we've forgotten something on the Arcada, there's no way to go back. And if you've saved over your only save game and discover you've forgotten something, you're host. You're starting over. So you want to save your game at major intervals and right before you do major things. Like, if we find an escape pod, we'd save before we get to the escape pod. Okay. We heard footsteps again, and we left. And this is the star generator room. Where's my eye cursor? This is the star generator development laboratory. Due to your incredibly low security clearance, you've never had access to this room. What a mess. Wreckage clutters the middle of the floor. A pair of lab workers have been blasted from the roster of the living. You're glad somebody else has to clean this up. Actually, in about 11 minutes and 50 seconds, it'll not be a problem at all. It'll clean itself up. This thing looks like it came off the front end of an old Studebaker. Or maybe the Batmobile. Anyway, it appears non-functional at this time. It was probably damaged in the heist. This is the star chart. It was used for locating candidates to test the star generator on once the bulk of the development process was completed. Upper support, base was trashed by the Vandals. And there was a device there. Didn't look at it like I should have. Just had the wrong button selected. It's a genuine widget. You're not sure what it does, but it's heavy, it's cool, looks cool, and it might be magnetic. Please keep this away from the game discs. Now you know why you didn't have clearance for this place. You don't understand what most of this crap does. This thing looks like a giant speaker for the cosmos. Alright. And we can lick and taste everything in here, or smell many things. And I'm not going to bother doing most of that for this game, unless there's a real cool message somewhere. We're just going to keep on moving because there's only 11 minutes to go till this thing goes up. There's plenty of time, technically. And I think we've exhausted the entire floor plan of the Arcada. There's not a whole lot left, except for this elevator going, apparently, down. You hear footsteps. Which means you're going to get out of here as soon as possible. And this room here will always have footsteps on it, so we want to hide behind here where they can't see us. Failing to notice anyone or anything in the room, the Sarien guards decide to check elsewhere. Way to go, Roger. Here we have a nice chunk of floor space dedicated to a cursor control device named after an annoying rodent. What were they thinking? The architects must have been low on oxygen when they came up with the design scheme for this compartment. It's a giant tribute to an ancient but still functional control device. These buttons are locked in position. It's probably just as well. You might live longer due to having no clue as to their purpose. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I can't do that, Dave.
10 minutes.
None of these buttons are operational
Till detonation.
at this time. You always meant to ask one of the lab technicians what this thing is. However, you procrastinated a bit too long in this case. It's either an ocean in a bottle or a model of your stomach as the deadline draws near. Alright, let's save the game here. This is yet another in a long line of elevators in this game, or ship. This elevator requires a key card to enter. Alright. And this pouch icon here is our inventory. Here's the data cartridge we got from the Arcada's data robot. Here's the key card we got from Jerry. And here's the widget we found attached to the star generator platform. If I'd actually managed to read that dialogue, use the look icon on it, it would have said that that's how they disrupted the force field on it. So we want to take the key card, select it with the pointer icon, and pop it into the slot. The lock releases with a satisfying click, and the elevator doors slide open. Alright, there's ways to kill Roger here, so we'll just save over the death save game. And this thing looks like the control panel from the Star Trek transporter. This control panel has many confusing gauges on it. The only one you can read says, "Caution, launch bay decompressed." What's the worst that can happen? This concludes your experiment on the effects of the vacuum on unprotected human body. Wasn't that fun? There's a button above the rectangular object below. Ooh, let's push the button. You notice some sort of gadget in the drawer. And we pick it up and look at it. It's some sort of a gadget. You're not sure what it does exactly, but it has a switch. A spacesuit hangs in the closet. A helmet sits on the top shelf. Let's put it on. Maybe that'll let us go outside without getting all decompressed. And one thing Sierra did not do well with these point-and-click games is that if Roger stands in the way of something, he blocks access to it. So I want to move him off to the side and do that. The image on the closet door looks familiar, but you can't quite place it. Alright, save again, because we made some minor progress. Now we can head outside. And we did see an escape pod sitting there. And this deserves a save game. And the first thing you do when you get into any kind of motor vehicle is you put on your seatbelt. I'm sure it kills Roger violently when we land. Pod, gauges, dials, buttons, blah, blah, blah. The inside of the Arcada's escape pod is not exactly packed with luxurious appointments. However, when it comes to savoring one's posterior, the pod's as good as it rolls. The survival kit contains the basics for deep space survival. And there's 3 buttons on an overhead console. A power button, an auto nav button. When operative, it allows the pod to navigate to the closest habitable planet. And a button that is not to be pushed at any time. So let's turn it on. Grab the throttle. And see about getting out of the Arcada. Alright. We've escaped. And then there's that little button that says do not press. Let's press it. You have a feeling that you shouldn't have pressed that button. Ouch, I think we've got some serious organ damage here. All of them, of course, could be easily replaced in the time period from which you've just arrived. However, a quick scenery check reveals that you're now in the Dark Ages. The only transplant you'll get here is from carcass to spit over flame. Is it implying that the Camelot people are, cannibals? As you draw a few final lungfuls of oxygen through your newly acquired sucking chest wound, you gleefully notice your final resting place is near beautiful Nottingham Castle, universally renowned for its inclusion in Sierra's conquests of the longbow. Oh my goodness, you're shocked to hear some highly inflammatory language making its way into your auditory canals. Must be some uncivilized ruffians in the nearby pub. Well, you're dead again. We even warned you not to push that button. You have no one to blame but yourself for having to sit through a plug for another fine Sierra product. Maybe you'll follow directions next time. Yeah, probably not. Thanks for playing and all that stuff. So we're going to restore back to this game here. And activate the auto nav this time. If you hit the do not press button in the AGI version, you crash in front of Castle Daventry, the castle from the King's Quest series. Thank you for flying Arcada Getaway Pod Lines. It's nearly been a pleasure serving you. Tell a friend if you've got one. Okay, that reminds me of the last time I was playing Flight Simulator. Alright, so thanks to a seatbelt, Roger survived. So let's take the survival kit that knocked itself loose from the back of the pod. If we click the hand icon in the inventory on it, you open it, and we discover a Xenon army knife and a canister of dehydrated water. Yes, dehydrated water. A chunk of the highly reflective windscreen rests on the sand at the front of the pod. It, along with your teeth, was jarred loose as a result of the landing's impact. If you can call it a landing. Alright. I think we will call it quits here, save our game, as we have just passed out of the Arcada sequence into the next stage of the game. I think there's a total of 4 segments of this game. So we'll come back in the next episode for more Space Quest 1 as we explore this planet of Corona. Thanks for watching, and tune in later.